What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the NerdJock's podcast. I am Chris Marone.
I am Jesse Grund. If that bounce like this, is it distracting to the viewer?
Looks like you're getting ready for a fight.
Yeah! It's perfect for our topic of conversation today.
Right? Jesse, how was your weekend? By the way, what are you drinking on?
It is in honor of our guest, which we'll pull on here in a second. I have an old-fashioned this evening.
Nice.
So,
like it.
It's an old-fashioned kind of evening.
One of those old LaCroix.
Ooh, LaCroix's.
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 Or the whole, can I get a LaCroix? And they're like, no, it's
LaCroix.
It's LaCroix.
Now that I've said LaCroix, like I'm always going to say it with an Australian accent for the rest of my life now.
This makes sense. It's permanent.
It's permanent. Weekend was good. We did a photo shoot at the studio for our new website. I am the owner of Unconventional Strength in Orlando, Florida. Little plug there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the photographer's like, hey, we got some amazing photos. I'm going to send them over to you. And I was like, so how many pictures? And she's like, well, just go ahead and I'll upload them. And I'm like, she's not answering me. And
it's very easy. Give me a number.
Yeah, just give me a number. Well, it come to find out she didn't actually know the number. And by the time they were all downloaded, it was over 1,900 photos. 1,900 photos.
1900.
Correct, which I now have to go through and favorite the ones that I really like and ignore the ones that I don't.
Wait, did anybody give her the note to stop hitting the button?
No one gave her that note. I am thankful. She did an amazing job. Some of these pictures are going to be fantastic. It's just a lot to go through.
Yeah, 1,900, that's a lot. I've done headshots and I walk away with having to go through 200, 300, and that's nowhere near 1,900. Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a few more old fashions before I can.
You're not even gonna make it through.
Go through all my. Yeah, I'm gonna pass out drunk.
Pizza's whole bottle
of bourbon at my side.
That photo's good. She's like, that was a terrible shot. I took a photo of the floor by accident. They're all these old fashions.
Yeah, that's accurate. But it was a good weekend. How was yours, Chris?
It was really good. It was eventful. Lots of Call of Duty Warzone. Watching some Fall Guys streams, taking care of Axel.
Oh, so fun.
Because he's overcoming a little bit of a medical issue, but he's doing good. And just been hanging out, surviving this heat wave.
Axel Foley? You have Axel Foley at your house?
Yes, I have Axel Foley in my house. No, Axel, my cat. Axel from Kingdom Hearts. Okay. Because everybody is always like, is it Axel Foley? Axel Rose? Like, no, Axel from Kingdom Hearts. And that's a real gamer when they go, Axel from Kingdom Hearts? Yeah, high five.
Yeah, Axel Rose would have been way down on my list. Like not anywhere near. Yeah. My second idea was Axel from Twisted Metal 2.
Oh, yeah. His story was great. I love that character.
Exactly.
Remember when he pulls his arms out at the very end after killing Calypso?
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Wasn't graphic at all. Yeah. Spoilers. Yes. If you haven't played the Twisted Metal series,
you haven't lived.
I really hope when PS5 comes out, I hope that's a title that they resurrect.
Please.
Battle Royale Twisted Metal. I'm just going to say that out loud.
I'm so in.
Put it into the ether.
How bad we need that. Twisted Metal Online, where it's like an MMO type stuff. We're getting ahead of ourselves. We got topics to cover. Let's cover some topics. What are the news bits we got today, good sir?
Well, on the sports front, we've got two big stories today. Let's start with the fact that the NBA finished the regular season, and now we're in the playoffs.
What?
Which is crazy to think about because a few months ago, we didn't even think there was going to be live sports again. But now we just finished the regular season, had some really exciting games here in the bubble in Orlando, Florida. And just yesterday, both of the number one seeds, the Los Angeles Lakers and the Milwaukee Bucks, lost their first round games to 8 seeds, the Orlando Magic and the Portland Trail Blazers. It's insane to think about because that's only happened one other time since there's been 8 seeds, is both of the number one seeds lost their game one. Now, very rarely do 8 seeds beat 1 seeds. It's only happened literally twice, I think, over a whole series. But it's crazy. The bubble's nuts, but it's worked. It's been kind of cool that it's worked. Part of it's the testing protocol that they've been doing, the Saliva Direct one, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And now FDA's approved it, and it's going to be done more. And the NBA was behind that. They helped fund that. So they've been really successful, and it's been, man, we got live sports again. It's so cool to have live sports again.
It's nice to have when you're just sitting around waiting for normal life to come back and you're like, can I get something to help me feel normal? Live sports, I'm there. I'm watching. Yeah.
I believe that we've had a new game enter the realm of Battle Royale that's just kind of taking it by storm right now, and it's actually fun.
It really has, because Fall Guys is the game that you're talking about, and I love watching people play this game. I myself haven't yet jumped in and started playing. I know you've played a little bit, super dedicated to Warzone, but the watching a Battle Royale, and it's done in the way that Fall Guys does it, it feels like you're on a game show. You know what I mean? You're on one like a Wipeout or whatever these like big obstacle course type shows are, but you're in this lobby with 60 people. You're trying to be the last one alive. It's hilarious. It looks just so goofy. You're these little beans. The game just doesn't take itself seriously. And it honestly, it's just this like breath of fresh air to all these like serious Battle Royale games that are out there. And I'm just so happy to see these developers over at Fall Guys doing so successfully. And they just broke like 1 million followers on Twitter or something like that. It's crazy. They're doing so good.
It's actually funny. So I played it. I loved it. I played it with some friends. We did a game night on Saturday night. We were playing the Avengers beta first, and it kept crashing on us. So then we went to play Fall Guys and just had a really good time. It's fun to even spectate and watch my friends and cheer them on. Like when you lost, you were like, "Oh, that's." I mean, I've seen some videos of some people going crazy when they lose.
How do you rage at Fall Guys?
I don't know, but so it's really funny. So I'm playing this little, what I think is this little indie game, right? And it cost me nothing. It was free on
PlayStation.
PlayStation Plus.
Dude, they broke 10 million users already. 10 million players.
So little did I know these facts. So I was like, man, you know what? I'm really enjoying this free game. I want to give them some money.
Yeah.
So I went and bought a costume, that was like $10. And I told my best friend about it. And he goes, yeah. I did the same thing. I mean, they did break 10 million users. I was like, oh, they don't need my money. They're doing so well.
You did a good thing. I did. That's awesome.
I would like to reward developers who do wonderful things like this.
Yeah,
so
and they had a charity going on for whoever donates the most will get their own skin. And it's to this charity. I can't remember specifically what it is. I just thought it was a really cool way to take the popularity, use the momentum of everybody talking about Fall Guys, and really just kind of making it this. It's like a wholesome game. That's the thing I love about it. Like the heart of Fall Guys is super wholesome.
And I love it's so fun to me to play, and I play it in front of my 2-year-old son. Like there are certain games I will not play in front of my 2-year-old son. When I was playing Last of Us 2, that was not being played in front of my 2-year-old son. But Fall Guys, on the other hand, it's like running and jumping and like dodging stuff, and it's brightly colored, and he's just sitting there watching like, oh, this is amazing. And I'm like, great, this is awesome. It's not violent. This is something I can show him. So cool. Avengers was okay too, but it's
Fall Guys
fighting robots. Fall Guys
feels like it's made for kids.
Fall Guys. Speaking of kids, if you don't know this, I am the strength and conditioning coach of a local high school football team. And football has been in the news from a sports perspective. You like that segue, Internet? I like that segue.
You did a pretty good job there.
So thank you very much. And to my own horn, I ruined it by pointing out the segue. But anyway, we're going to have football. What's been insane about this is the NFL has been full steam ahead. We're going to play football. Some players are opting out, but the most part, everybody's showing up to play. And then there are no bubbles with the NFL. You show up they're just not doing a preseason, basically, is what they're doing. Lots of testing. But college football is on a totally different atmosphere right now. So if you don't know, the Big Ten and the Pac-12 have opted out of playing football this year. They are, quote unquote, trying to play in the spring. It's not going to work. Let's put this in perspective. You are not going to ask student athletes to play 2 seasons in one calendar year. Chris, you used to be a college football player.
Yeah.
What would it be like to play 2 full seasons in one calendar year?
Probably would make me quit. It's already tough enough, and everything else that comes with the repeated hits, brain damage that we know is happening, suffering. I mean, it's real. Like you now know that this is actually occurring. 2 seasons would be exacerbating a problem that already exists, which is players not having what feels like enough time to heal. And recovery, which, as you understand the physical detriments on the human body when you're not getting enough time to recover, I couldn't. I would leave. Like, I would be like, I can't do this. 2 in 1 year, I'm done. I would walk away.
Yeah. I think we're going to see a lot of players who, if the Big Ten and the Pac-12 try and do that, I think they're going to opt.
Unplug it, plug it back in.
Amateur hour over here. Hold on.
You no longer sound like a robot.
Beep bop, boop bop, beep, beep bop, boop. Yep. Amateur hour over here, ladies and gentlemen. No, I think it's interesting to think about the fact that these kids, most of them, they live their lives to play football. And until you've been with a high school football team, I work with a very large high school in an area where high school football is incredibly important. And these kids live to play the game. Like, that's what they want to do. They breathe it. And the problem is that they don't necessarily have their own best interests in mind when it comes to that. And I'm getting a chance to teach that from a strength and conditioning standpoint, from recovery and mobility and all that stuff. You get to the college level, and it's big business, right? I mean, let's think about how much money the NCAA makes every year.
Yeah.
It's a lot, right?
Which is why we're talking about paying your players.
Which needs to happen. Some states have started moving towards that, California and Florida being 2 of them, 2 of the bigger ones. I think we need to put in perspective, there's not going to be spring football. Like, that's not going to happen.
Just be okay with it.
Yeah. I mean, just be okay with it. Now, I can tell you, the ACC is going to play football. Conference USA is going to play football. The Big 12 is playing football. I think I said the Big 12 earlier was canceled. It's the Big 10 who's canceling, by the way.
That's right.
Okay. And the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12, Conference USA, they're all playing football in the fall. Okay. And the players who want to play get to stick around. The ones that don't want to play can walk away. And they've been told, NCAA is actually ruling that everybody's going to get an extra year of eligibility for fall sports. So I think that's the right thing to do.
Yep.
These are young adults, if they choose to play the game in this environment. And I actually think Nick Saban said this, and you may actually agree, this may be a safer environment for them with their schools than it is for them to go home right now. It may be a safer environment with more control, more medical personnel. Like, it may be a safer environment generally than for some of these guys to go home.
Yeah.
So
that would make a lot of sense when you would just look at how they would handle it, the protocols, the people working and ensuring their safety. When you go home and you're not around that type of environment, it's potential that you could get sick, and it could be a bad decision unintentionally. And that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So that's cool to see that there is a response from some, and the NCAA is saying, like, hey, if you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. If you want to do it, you can do it. And I like that approach. It's like, it should be that way. And if there are players there that are like, hey, I want to sit out and I want to protect myself, that should be allowed as well too. Which I believe is what they're saying with the whole adding the extra year and everything. It's the right way to handle this whole situation. Nobody should have to suffer at something that is literally completely out of our control.
Absolutely. But we're not talking a lot about right now, Chris? We're talking about football. We're not talking about a bigger story that's bigger than football.
Yeah, this is a story that I haven't been able to understand why we're not talking about at all. And that is just simply the fact that we now are in full admittance. Is that the correct way to say it? Yeah, admittance to.
We are no longer in denial. That's for sure.
Yeah. Crafts found.
Like arts and crafts?
Not from this earth. Acknowledgement.
Oh, okay.
Acknowledgement. Yes, arts and crafts. Yeah, because some of the UFO videos are just a little arts and craft UFO on a string, and they did a good angle, and you're like, yeah, no, this is real stuff. And we're talking about military individuals admitting in documentation, seeing things that were like, there is no technology on this earth that we know of that is able to do what that thing was able to do. And these are people with very sound military experience, lives, just people you wouldn't be like, this person's crazy. Like a lot of the UFO seers or people who are like, yeah, I met an alien. You're like, okay, that dude's crazy. You're talking like military service men who are like, no, this is what we saw. This is how we saw it. Here's the proof that we saw it. And yeah, this is a real thing.
It's interesting. I mean, so what's incredible is that they're just kind of slipping this in right now.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Here it is.
by the way, you know how you're worried about if you touch that doorknob that you might have a virus on it?
Yeah.
What if you are worried that if you touch that doorknob, if it came alive?
Yeah.
That's the type of stuff we're talking about right now.
We're talking about something that requires the entire world to go, wait, what? Like,
Yeah,
this is technology so powerful that it would wipe any nation due to just what it has the capability of doing. And we should all just be stopping and being like, wait, what? Can we talk about this more? Should we address this? Yeah, I think we should. Hold on, let me get the hand sanitizer. All right, now let's talk about this.
I think it doesn't surprise Russia because Putin obviously is an alien. So
he's got like superpowers or something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's hilarious.
He's got like the mutant ability to ride horses shirtless and think that you are incredibly sexy.
That's so true.
Yes.
Now, here's the thing. We got to think about what was said was like supposedly the craft that they saw, it had the ability to go from 60,000 feet in the air to above water in a blink of an eye and on a dead stop and be there. And it knew it was getting tracked as well. There was a point in which the pilot was saying like it knew we were tracking it. They had this on radar. And as he's describing it, I was like, did you just say 60,000 feet in less than a second instantaneously? Like, that's like the first time an ant in its little ant life is like, oh, everything is just the anthill, and then comes out, and then just a human is there. Oh, there's just got to be this moment of just, what in God's name is that?
I have two questions to lighten the mood because this is a very serious subject, but we here at NerdJock like to bring things back to, things that are entertaining.
Because it helps us move in life. Humor.
It does. If you had to choose one alien craft from the movies for it to be the craft that did the 60,000 feet in less than a second, what would that alien craft be? And would you rather it was piloted by a predator,
okay,
a member of Starfleet, or Superman?
Oh, wow. I don't want to believe in Kryptonians because we're doomed. Kind of want to believe in Starfleet because maybe we can negotiate. So, yeah, maybe, for me, a Millennium Falcon would be pretty dope. Maybe piloted. No, not by the Predator. I was going to be like, yeah, they're Predator. No, they're there to take somebody, and I don't want it to be me. Out of the 7.5 billion people on Earth, I don't want to be the one the Predator's there for. So I think I would then clash both worlds, and I know there are people that are like, you say it. Don't you dare say it.
I had a feeling you were going to.
Don't you dare say it. Starfleet piloting the Millennium Falcon. Did someone somewhere just
only yes, they did.
Suffer?
They did. They just cursed your name.
Yeah.
They were like, like Khan.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's totally happening. See, I would be on the other end. I would want Superman piloting it.
Okay.
Because I have a good feeling about Kryptonians.
Cool.
I think that would be, I think we could make peace and have some that are on our side.
Yeah.
So that would be a good thing. Plus we know if there's going to be a Superman, there needs to be a Batman. So we're good.
That's true.
So
it's very true. So now you're facts. Like, does that make me Bruce Wayne?
Exactly. Then somebody just like, here's $7.5 million. And I'm like,
you just need to find ways to switch yourself with Jeff Bezos. And then you have the ability to become Batman.
Oh my gosh. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I have to do.
Yeah, you got to create the next Amazon.
My God. Yeah, I guess that exists.
That's possible.
You're right.
We do have one more story relating to that amazing superhero that you just talked about, which is our deep dive segment.
You mean the guy on the back of my wall?
Hey.
Yeah. So news this week is that the Batman, the next rendition of Batman to the big screen, directed by Matt Reeves, is going to go back in production in September. Now, we do know that this movie is going to be starring the one and only Robert Pattinson as Batman. That's his name. Yeah, I almost got it wrong the first time. I think Colin Farrell is going to be playing the Penguin, or Oswald Cobblepot, or some unnamed person that's obvious the Penguin. When they're like, this is not who he's playing, but you're like,
I know my comic books.
Yeah, exactly. I know that's who he's playing. And then Zoe Kravitz is going to be playing Catwoman. The rumor is they're going to be using The Long Halloween as its influence.
Oh, nice.
What I want to talk about in our first episode is a story that happened months ago. I'm very interested to see how this transpires. Robert Pattinson came out and said that he was not training for the role of Batman, and that he thought that actors who took training too seriously, and I'm paraphrasing here, but who took training too seriously and worked out really, really hard were, quote unquote, this isn't paraphrasing, part of the problem, and that guys like James Dean didn't work out like this for roles. Now, he said his trainer's been trying to get him to do stuff. He gave him a Bosu ball and some weights, and he hasn't been doing it. He's been known to kind of troll his the members of the media.
Feels trolly.
So then an article came out. Actually, here's his workout. Here's what he's doing. It was some running on the beach and some boxing and stuff. And I'm just like, none of this is Batman.
Right.
And it's my problem with this story is 100%. It is almost impossible for the average Joe to get into the type of shape that you would need to be into to be Batman.
Yeah.
I mean, because let's be honest here. Batman is a black belt in 9 martial arts at least, and a gymnast, and he probably back squats over 500 pounds and benches like small cars.
Yeah.
Like that combination is almost impossible to get through, okay, as a normal human being.
Right.
And even as somebody with limitless resources, it would take years to get to that position, which is kind of part of the whole journey of him to become Batman.
Yeah.
Which is why when he quit being Batman so quickly in a certain film that was the third of a certain trilogy, I was like, he spent 20 years of his life just to be like, nah, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give up now.
No.
So,
but also, isn't it in the lore too? He's technically like the penultimate human being. Like he is the highest physical, athletic,
and mental,
yes. Like everything that a human being could reach would make him superhuman in a way.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
That acknowledgement was always the case for him.
Yeah, and I think it's a really important point in that no, an actor or an actress is not going to, in a period of 6 months, look like that person.
Yeah.
They're just not going to. But they have resources that we don't have to get them to a place where they can. Okay? They don't have to worry about a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about food being in front of them. They don't have to worry about picking out what to eat or how much of it to eat. They have people that do that.
Yeah, Kumail Nanjiani described that in his journey, and he looked ridiculous. Like, how did you do that? And he's like, I know, but when I got done, I went right back to my life that it was previously.
Right back to it. And so that kind of segued us I like the word segue tonight. That kind of passes us into our guest tonight.
Yes.
So our guest tonight happens to be an expert on this. He happens to have done this multiple times and happens to have experience training superheroes. And I've been blessed to actually have the opportunity to train some of his clients with him in Vancouver. He is the owner of T3 Athletics, a certified personal trainer and superhero builder, Tom Taylor. Tom, thank you for coming on the NerdJock's podcast.
Tom.
Hi, boys.
What's going on,
Hey!
man? Welcome. How are you?
I'm happy to be here. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Surviving as much as we can. You know,
we have to,
right?
Until the aliens come. Fair enough.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. And then they teach us how to actually work out.
Well,
Man.
that could be some pretty cool science again.
Hey.
You know, that we wouldn't know about, right?
Yeah.
So
I like science.
yeah, man, it's weird times. We start throwing in alien, like UFO sort of confirmation stuff in at right now. You're like 2020, just throw everything. Just go everything. It's crazy.
I got alien invasion on 2020 bingo. So if we get it, I got it. We're good.
Okay.
Like I win. I win.
Oh, dude.
I win.
Yeah.
So were you taking a listen to that conversation regarding Robert Pattinson and his commentary on that? And, as someone who will let you, obviously introduce what experience that is you have and that makes you an expert, love to hear your just initial take on that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a, it's interesting. And I think, thinking about that mindset when you are actually, it's one thing to go the route of, I don't have to look that way because of CGI or because of I'm wearing a costume, so it doesn't matter. So as opposed to now I'm going shirtless and I have to represent. Part of it, I think, is it shows dedication and work ethic in terms of like owning a role, right? So look at Christian Bale. That's an extreme version, right? But every role he's playing, and method actor and what have you, but he owns that, as opposed to I would like to sit down and maybe have an old fashioned with Robert Pattinson and go, hey, are you saying that because you don't want to work that hard, or are you saying that because you're trying to make a statement? Because if you're playing Batman, fucking be Batman. Yeah. Right? Yes. Batman is this. So you need to be the best you can be. They're not asking you to be, 20, 30, and there's been how many different versions of Batman?
Yeah.
Quiz, go. How many? I don't.
6. He will be the
6
on-screen version. No, he'll be the 5th on-screen version. There's been 4. No, he'll be the 6th. There's been 5. He'll be the 6th. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
And all different body types, right? But all effort to look the part to that degree.
Except for Adam West. Yes, except for Adam West.
Hey, when you've got boom pow happening, it doesn't matter. You're good, dude.
They're not looking at the muscles.
Adam West still wore full spandex all the time, right? Like, you got to give him
all the time.
That too. So,
yeah. He had no nipples. Those nipples were real.
Those are real nipples, guys. They're not added to the suits, y'all.
When it was cold, and we loved it. Okay, good. Right? But yeah, man, that's sort of my take on it. I would love to know more, but it is kind of one of those things where
have him expound.
Well, yeah, own it, do it. And, I don't know. I don't know why it's part of the problem. It seems strange. And it seems like, at lack of a better description, it seems like a bit of a cop-out, but I don't know.
Now, you're someone who has trained somebody within the DC universe, correct?
Indeed, yes. So I trained Stephen Amell for Arrow for 4 seasons, but I also work with the cast as well. And all of them own the fact that they wanted to represent accordingly. And that's where, you see that. I find it interesting because it's like, if someone presents you with that task and you're not that person at that moment, right? You're like, okay, well, geez, okay, now I've got to learn how to fight properly. I need to know how to move properly. I need to know how to, I have to be and look like a superhero. You're a superhero, right? Like, be a superhero. And so it's fun because, when you're training fighters, they have a very specific goal that's very there's a lot of motivation to not die, right? Pretty much. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So it's like,
it's
hey,
a
by the
great
way
way to put it. Yeah.
You're going to be, Yeah. So what do I need to do to not die? Right. And when someone goes, hey, we want to make you a superhero and we want to make you look that way, you're like, okay, well, what do I do then? How do I do this? And I think that's what's so cool is seeing all of them just take that and run with it, because it's an exciting opportunity to do something maybe you haven't done before. So
that's true.
And you're like, so I get to learn fight training. I get to learn sticks. I get to learn knife training. I get to and it's paid for. And you know, I mean, like, I don't understand
why not go all out.
And it's not going to hurt you. Like, they're not asking you to starve.
It does suck. I mean, let's be honest. Like, the sucky part is the pain of evolving, you know, your body in that way.
100%, right?
Do you hear that? Do you hear that?
Yeah,
that's a little smallest violin.
Nice. Did you get that on? Did you get that on Prime?
That's what that is. Yeah. Yep. 6 hours. 6 hours. It was delivered. I'm sorry, not to interrupt anybody who's talking here, but suck it up, Buttercup. You signed on the dotted line. I'm gonna do it. You signed on the dotted line to play a superhero. You know what it takes to play a superhero. It's not hidden. We shoot things in 4K now, which means they're detailed. You're not going to live in the costume for the entirety. You're going to be out of it sometimes, and you need to look like you're a superhero. So suck it up. Take your hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and go freaking train for the next 6 hours.
So Jesse, do you have an opinion on this, or did you?
No.
It doesn't sound like one at all. And I'm actually curious about this because as somebody who played and I would listen to others tell me what to do, it was never really like I'm going to try to pass this on to someone else. But for both of you, I'm just curious, when somebody is just not there mentally, what do you do in order to help them get there mentally?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah,
you started breathing first, so you go first.
You know, I have a few. I've had quite a few people who are like this, just at different stages. The first thing I always do is I bring them back to why they're there. So that's because sometimes I think lost in all of the hard work is the why, and sometimes I have to bring people back to the why of why they are there, and usually that takes care of it. Usually that helps them focus. Usually that brings them back to where they are. Sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes it takes then being flexible with how you are as a coach to immediately go to things that you know they like, because then you can reel them back into the stuff that maybe they don't like. You know, maybe they're just not mentally there that day, but slamming a rope sounds like a really good idea. Great, let's do it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and then you gotta change yourself as a coach. Maybe that day I'm gonna give them simpler stuff, not overcoach them, but really more so motivate them so they walk out with that satisfaction psychologically from the session because they're there. So it takes, there's a couple of different tweaks that I do. And sometimes you just can't get through to them. They're humans, but if they're moving and they're doing what you're telling them to do, sometimes that's better than nothing. You just have to accept that.
True.
Yeah. I think playing with the psychology of people, and I guess that's where the personal training comes into play, because you're sitting there going like, there's a check-in. Like I usually check in, like, how you feeling today? Like, you know, how's the body going? Like, you know, like, and just getting an overall read. And usually, I mean, if you see someone that you know regularly, you're like, oof, are you a little tired today? Or whatever it is. Like,
you almost pick up on it.
For sure. And you're training them super hard. So yeah, there are days when you got to go, well, let's just move a little bit, you know, and we're good. And like, let's reset. Yeah. And so that's a big part of it. And when you get I'm feeling 6 out of 10 as opposed to 9 out of 10, you're like, all right, well, I'm not breaking you down then if that's how you feel. But then one of the things I say to people when I first start training them is like, I don't know you, you don't know me. So if you need to take a break, take a break. It's all good. When it comes time, when we've worked together enough and I need you to shut the fuck up and keep going, then you're going to listen to me, because that's the dance, right? So when you start understanding how people are, you're like, okay, like you can do this and you're good to do that. And that's important, and it's important to be able to, you don't just give people every workout that you have. You need to read that, and they appreciate it. They get more out of it. They come back better the next time. And it's just all a win-win. But if you've got these blinders on, like, no, we got to train. Well, that's a little ignorant. So that's the dance, right? So, I totally agree with what Jesse's saying. It's true. But unfortunately or fortunately, I don't have to deal with the why as much as you might have to, Jess, because these people are going to camera.
You have a contract. You're like,
right?
hey, this is why you're here.
You've agreed to this. Yeah, you're getting paid very well. You should be okay.
And they do. They own it. Like Steven, like when Steven's in, he's in, and he's all in, and
he's probably had bad days.
For sure. But it is one of those things where, and that's the other thing too, is like you realize he's saying he's all good, but he's not all good. And you got to go, all right, we're going to tone this down a bit and also make sure that he feels like he's done something, and he will have. But you know that you have to do that dance a little bit too, because you're like, you can't push as like, get whatever. I'm all good. I'm like, no, you have a little bit of a tweak here. Let's not, no, because tomorrow it's going to be worse if you do that. So, just being mindful of that. But if they go in and they come in and they give you their all, because they are very, very much incentivized to do that, then it's a bit of a layup, right? In that regard. But you still have to push them through these things where they think they might not be able to get through. And then once they do, they're like, whoa, I feel like a superhero. I feel incredible. And it's just so cool to see that as a trainer. Jess, when you watch that transformation and suddenly someone's in with t-shirts and all of a sudden they're in sleeveless and they're like, you know what I mean? You're like, oh, okay, you're feeling this, right? Like that's like, that they're like, yeah, I feel good.
It's also rewarding to see yourself develop, It's also, you're kind of like, oh, wow, look at that. My shoulder. I can see the cut of my shoulder. It's just like this wonderful moment.
100%. And that's maybe like, it's not an aha moment, but it's certainly a moment that you're like, yeah, dude, it works. And yeah, it's going to keep going this way, but you're not doing this in a week. So let's keep going. So managing expectations and also having that ability to, you said Jesse's like, you give people what they like to do, and then you give them these little snippets. And I think that's what the burners, like the burnouts, like those finishers are so good, because it exclamates the workout. And they're like, hey, we're going to go through these movement patterns. We're going to work out. We're not going to go, or we will go hard. But at the end, it's like you're done. And that is what people need to finish a workout typically, to walk out like endorphins jacked, going like, whoa, you killed it. And that's kind of that's how I sort of work that. Anyways, that's how I do it.
I don't know how much of Tom's interest in Batman is there, but I know, Jesse, you have a very massive interest in Batman.
Just a little bit.
A following. The poster is only a small snippet into that, but as somebody who recognizes
it's crazy glued on the wall, by the way.
It's everywhere. But as someone who recognizes that the origin story, the intellectual property that is Batman, Bruce Wayne, should be honored as the way it was created by Bill Finger and Buck. It should be like, your expectation should be, I need to respect this because there are millions.
It's an honor, man, to be like asked to be Batman. Are you crazy? Like, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, there's too much entitlement. I think I almost feel from his interview, and I don't know Robert Pattinson.
Right. Yeah.
I'm actually going to give him a bigger benefit of the doubt than I did Ben Affleck, because Affleck had already messed up one other superhero, so I wasn't going to give him any benefit of the doubt. Okay. But it almost seemed like he had this entitled feel, like, oh, yeah, of course they offered me Batman, and I'll work out if I want to, but I'm not going to work out like everybody else. Like, no, like you have to. My opinion about the comic characters, like the Batmans and the Supermans, and where comics have gone in regards to storytelling, they're modern day literature classics in a lot of ways.
Right.
Okay, they are stories, much like Gulliver's Travels was, that are going to be passed down from generation to generation. You're getting this literary character who is the third most recognizable symbol in the entire world is the bat symbol. Third. And somehow they still couldn't make $1 billion off of Batman versus Superman, but I digress.
That's for another episode.
That's for another episode. You have been given an honor that I would I would kill for. Okay.
You don't
I
say.
mean, I would. If they ever bring him on the small screen, I'm going to pull every string I have with you to get an audition. I'm just saying. But my
I'm
point
ready.
is
I
that
have my own cape and cowl. It's custom fitted.
come on, just walk in.
I'll rent it out at
in,
half the
kids,
cost.
Did that guy show up to his reading in full Batman costume?
Is there an actual Batman?
Yes, I am here. I stood next to Tom and Steven and I'm the perfect height, so let's do this thing. Okay?
Yeah, we'll just do that.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Large.
Oh, nice. It was the natural bar graph in the world.
Yeah.
It was.
Nice.
It was. I love that photo.
Yeah.
That photo was perfect.
That's great.
But I do think that there like Tom, you said, and I think Steven took it seriously too, that there's a certain honor to playing these characters. And I think that hearing what Pattinson has said, I'll give it to Affleck. He busted his butt to play Batman. Okay.
That is
true. We saw that physically in Batman versus Superman. Okay. I'd say he probably, besides Bale, worked the hardest physically to play the role. He
Right.
took that very seriously.
Yeah.
And he used to be a nerd. He was a nerd back in the day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, him and Kevin Smith, watch Mallrats, you'll see all of that stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
My point is that I just think there's a certain element of entitlement that I see out of this. I'm still going to give him a chance.
Yeah.
I think Reeves is a good director.
And we should.
I love the storyline.
Yeah.
But, I also think that a big part of being Batman is the fight training. And Tom, you've done a lot of that. It's one of your specialties. You've taken Emily, who really hadn't thrown a punch before coming to you, and that girl lines them up and puts them together. For you, why do you think, besides the need for the role of superhero, that fight training is just an organic place that your career has gone to mesh both fighting and fitness together in one?
I think the thing when you start looking at the superhero, like these shows and stuff, right? Obviously, they're not. A lot of these actors want to do their own stunts. That's their in a perfect world that they would love to be able to to be good enough to do enough of their own stuff, obviously without getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
And so that dance of showing that and teaching that level of athleticism and also showing people how to move properly. And I can't express it enough or stress it enough, how good it feels to hit something right. Like if you're doing pad work, when you're kicking, punching, elbowing, knees, whatever,
You feel it.
and you do it properly, the eyes light up, right? You're like, oh, that felt good. I'm like, I don't even need to compliment that because as well.
Yeah.
So that feeling is we're talking about this world right now, when we're talking about empowerment and we're talking about, women being stronger and people understanding and wanting to learn more about how to move properly. And you are given the opportunity to do that and you don't take full advantage of it. I mean, that's life wasted, right? That's a wasted opportunity. So when you have these people that are like Katie, for example, and Emily, and they would come in and they're like, show me how to do this. And they are focused. And because they're actors, they take direction well too. And because they're like, just tell me what to do. Yeah. And so that's a nice dance because you can think about them being prima donnas or being whatever, but so many of they've all been awesome in that regard. Yeah. The problem is when you get a little too familiar with them and it's now it's kind of like, wow, do we really need to do 50? Yes. You're like, but if I first started training them, they'd be like, well, we're doing 50. You can't do it.
I'm just going to do 42.
Right? Yeah. You're like, no, I'm good there. You're like, no, you're not. So as the relationship progresses and evolves, so does your leadership style have to do that as well. But regardless, it's so cool to see them, it's fun to do, right? I mean, it's not like to be fair, when I teach them jujitsu and doing groundwork stuff, they're like, oh, what are we doing here? Because it's weird, right? Jiu-jitsu is weird compared to until you actually armbar someone or rear naked choke somebody, all the movements that you need to do to get to that position, it's weird. And
maybe that's where the commentary is coming from. Maybe it's the because it's foreign to him in a way. It's a way of resisting what is scary, that is this uphill battle, right? No, I know. I'm with you on the tiny violin. Trust me, I'm with you on it. I'm just saying is like, if someone has that mentality of like, this is too big of a hill in front of me, I don't want to have to go up this hill. People go up this hill. You're part of the problem. I'm just going to go around the hill, or I'm not going to go up the hill at all. It's kind of like, well, part of the journey in life is paying it forward, right? Going up the hill and then encouraging others. Like, you're going to face these massive hills in life. Some of them will be these small things like getting paid millions of dollars to play an amazing role. Or sometimes you're going to experience something in life like people who lose the ability to walk and have to bust their ass for months, if not years, to be able to regain the muscles so that they can actually walk again.
To do that. Yeah. And when you miss, like once you start missing something and you still like, you start realizing like what you could be doing and you can't now and all these sort of things. I think it's just, I guess that's my frustration when I hear about a story like this, because it's an opportunity it's not asking you to be a Navy SEAL. It's not asking you to be something that's like, that's going to be detrimental to your health. Right. They're not asking you to be someone that you're not. They're just asking you to be fit and, and jacked, if you will. Right. Yeah. And also know how to move properly. So I really, as you were talking, Chris, I'm like, I was thinking about how I would have to how to deal with him if I got that call and going like, hey, you got to work with Robert Pattinson for this role. And he's really kind of doesn't want to do any of these things. And I'm like,
Jesse, get up here.
Jesse came up. Robert
it's hard for you to be. It's hard for you to be mean. I mean, it's hard for you to be mean, right? That's a cultural thing for you, is to be very kind.
Fuck that. I am mean when I need to be mean. But I need to know you. So that's the creating rapport. Yeah. So when you back to Jesse saying like the why, right? So you have a conversation with Pattinson, you're like, so why are we doing this? And he's like, well, and whatever answer that is, but you have to navigate that, and do it in a way that you still have that job, because he could be like, that guy's done, and I want someone else. Yep. And you want someone going like, they're like, no. He's our guy. He's proven. You need to go and work with him and follow. Like, well, no, that's not how it works. Like, they choose who they want to work with. That's given, right? Yeah. So when you have to have that sort of, all right, let's see how this goes. And then you started, you're putting in a few little things in his ear going like, oh, well, all right, well, why not this? Why not that? Let's try this out or whatever. So I think that's the dance that you have to do to then see why he's doing this and go like, what do you think about this role? And he's like, well, I just want to be emo and not be dude, you're Batman. Hey,
you're Batman. You got to be the full thing.
Yeah. And how can we make you the best Batman that you want to be? When you see Batman, what do you envision? And like, what are your sort of, that's the thing. Yeah. He's like, and gauge that. So it is like, you can't just go, you can't do that even though we want to, right, Jess? But it is tough because you have to be able to do that once you've established relationship and go, okay, now we're doing this, but we got to get to that point, and really sort of get them dialed in and excited about what we're doing here. Right. Yeah. So go on, sir.
See, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. And if I was approached by, a studio saying I got to train him, of course, I'm not going to be like, hey,
of course. Yeah.
Shape up and ship out.
But that's what's happening on the inside.
That's what's so happening on the inside, because the way I look at it, and this will be that we can segue into our next segment from here. Yeah. The way I look at it, you use the analogy of climbing a mountain. Maybe they don't want to climb or they're scared to climb. Well, one, they've got anecdotal people they can look around who are already climbing the mountain, who have climbed it before. And two, unlike pretty much everybody else who's climbing that mountain, they have an army of Sherpas behind them who are going to help them push and get up the mountain. Yeah. So I think that's why this story frustrates me so much, because it's not like people haven't done this before.
Yeah.
It's not like they haven't done this before. And it's not like you don't have an army of Sherpas who are going to do most of the planning and the work for you. All you got to do is put in the sets and the reps.
True.
Get the sleep.
Very true.
Don't eat the things that you're not supposed to eat.
But
so
how
I think that's why,
like how he looks at that, like from a contrary, because I totally agree with you. But it's like whether you look at those people as support or you're looking at them as not a hindrance, but like the opposite of that, because they're just pressuring and pressuring and pressuring, right? So when you've got people like that that you feel are in your corner and they are supporting you, and or you've got someone in your ear going like I'm thinking about a fighter, like there's your main, like your first, like your corner man, like he's your corner, he's in the ring with you, right? Sure. Everybody else are the secondaries. Shut up, stop talking. I'm talking to my fighter. And if you have that relationship and that trust with them, and then the people, I'm like, hey, by the way, all these people behind you here, they all have your back. But if you got an issue, like, or whatever, you talk to me. Like when Junior was, I wasn't his second. Sam was his second. And but Junior and I have, like, he's one of my best friends, and like he's a pro boxer, Canadian champion, awesome. National champion. Like he's incredible.
I didn't know Canadians punched each other, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, if you want some videos, I'll send you some videos. But yeah, but like we were in for his title defense, and he basically was like, he was cutting weight, and we were at this family dinner the night before. Like, so he's sipping like this much water. And we're at this like Greek restaurant. Everyone's like, I'll have the souvlaki, I'll have the pizza, I'll have this. And he's sitting at the head of the table. And that strength of just like watching that and being nice, because that's the difference. You can be there, but you're an asshole. That's different, right? Like, but he sat there and he just like, that's part of the fight. But you also need somebody in your corner that's going to be like, that's your support system. And right before weigh-in, he wanted nobody else around him but me on the elliptical and like there, because he's like, get him away from me. Like even like it, and you have to have that person that you believe in that's on the same path with you for the same goal, right? And if you're aligned, you're good. And I really, I was honored with that sort of like, like, okay, like he believes in like me that much and he expects that much from me. And I'm like, yeah, it's so important to have that person. So if you can establish that with someone as an actor, or like, that's where you need to get to with your clients, because once you get there, then it's now the fun starts of like, no, you need to shut them up. Like we're going, right? And they respect that, as opposed to, you don't just go in there and own that. That's not how it works, right? Yeah. So
we'll just have to, wait and see and hope that that's what happens for Pattinson, that's what he gets. His trainer builds that kind of relationship with him. But it's so funny you bring up fighting and you talk about that because the segment we're going to close out with for this episode of NerdJock's is our Cool Beans segment, which is having to revolve around a fight happening within the MMA with some women.
Did you say cool beans? Did you say cool beans?
Yeah, cool beans.
Cool.
Beans?
Cool.
Cool beans?
Cool beans.
Cool beans. So, Jesse, can you kind of break down this? Sorry, Tom, you had to go through the cool beans thing. You're just going to have to be used to that.
Missed it. My bad. I was trying to
go. Can you break down this clip we're about to watch?
So I'd say I've watched this clip probably a dozen times at this point. And the first time I watched it, I'm going to put this out in the ether. I laughed very, very hysterically. But now that I've watched it a few times and we have an expert who's been in a corner and understands this a little bit more, he'll be able to shed some light on this. I think for me, the cool beans part of this segment is the person who won this fight. Because I think the way she acted, how she reacted, her demonstrated skill, and then her sportsmanship at the end is the cool beans. Also, another woman's going to be knocked out in 7 seconds.
7
in a championship fight. 7 seconds.
Tick tock.
All right, so let's pull up the clip.
How's that?
It's good.
Oh, that's perfect.
5-5 knockouts. She's only fought 8 professional
I think it's just so
rounds.
interesting to look at this and go, right now, like, who do you think is going to win this fight? Who's going to get knocked out in 7 seconds? Right, like, ask yourself that question, right? In demeanor. until this happens.
Reluctant
Because
to come out of her corner. Let them 1, 2, 3, 4.
Might have been faster than 7 seconds. I think she hit the ground at 154.
Wow.
I like how WoW is mom as well.
That's true. Look at that. That's WoW upside down.
Yes. Wow, upside down. Wow.
It's a lot of WoW.
So,
Bring it up.
as
So Tom,
someone who, both of you have trained people, and Tom, you've specifically worked with fighters. Did you expect that from professional fighters?
I didn't. I mean, it sucks when it's obviously laid out for you in the title of the YouTube video. But so you're like, okay, what's going to happen here, right? Like when you get a video, you're like, all right, well, that's where I was like, because you've got nonchalance and then you've got game face, but you could make an argument for either one of those. And so I was like, which one here is going to happen? Because you've got nonchalance that could be super, like all of a sudden, bang, away you go.
right.
And then the game face is like way too intense and not prepared, whatever it is. But I just, and then when it happened, then you look back on it again and you're sort of going, and it's like 2020, right? Like, oh, totally not prepared, totally scared. You're like,
Yeah.
But it is one of those things where you see that. I mean, most importantly, forget about that. The walkout says it all, right? It's not a walkout. It's a shuffle of, I don't want to go any more forward than I have to. Let's get this done, right?
Yeah.
And again, I'd love to know more. I'd love to ask her a couple questions about where her headspace was. Have you guys heard anything about her headspace? Like, you looked into it at all?
No, honestly, I mean, I personally haven't. I haven't done a lot of digging. I do know that she was a champion. It was a champion versus champion fight.
But her fights were
however, somehow this was the first fighter that she had fought that had a winning record. I don't necessarily understand that.
Oh, wow.
So, and you can hear the announcers. The announcer said this shouldn't take long. Okay, so why are we booking this fight?
Right.
Yeah.
Why is this fight booked?
Yeah.
Like why if everybody knows that this woman is being fed to this other woman and doesn't stand a chance, why are we having this fight right now?
Which
but it
adds to the cool beans on the one who didn't do what she could have done, gloated, made it seem like this, this happened. I just took this person out back and, whooped them. No, there was a lot of respect shown.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's what I love champions that act that way, you know? And if you were to, and it's also, I mean, if you're a champion and you finish someone like that and like odds are with you so highly, and this as well. And this is what I always find so incredible about boxing is like, it's like they kind of get it right. Boxing is like one punch could change everything, but yet it doesn't in so many circumstances, right?
Yeah.
It's like this game of millimeters. It's not centimeters, not inches. It's like, and it's beautiful to watch. And this is why it's so hard to comprehend unless you've boxed and you've fought that way, because to get out of that way just enough to be that favored or what have you it's incredible. But this is the level of like, if she was to celebrate this win, you're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, what are you celebrating?
Yeah.
Like you outclassed her. You knew this probably. And so, go on your way respectfully. And I think that's like, it's not a war. There's nothing to be jumping on the ropes for. It's like, sorry, almost, right?
It looks good to people who might look up to these types of individuals as well, and maybe one day want to be in that position where it's like, hey, I'll be like that if I'm ever put
100%
in that situation.
That's my issue with like UFC. Sorry, Jessica.
No. I'm sorry. You're our guest, so that's your issue. With
I get to talk whenever I want to talk, so I'm going to talk
right
now. Fine, right? No, I was just saying like the way the UFC has kind of come to is like, it's a little bit more WWE, and it is showmanship. It's gaming, and I get it. It has to happen, right? But you've got like what's his name, Colby Covington.
Colby Covington.
Like right? I mean, but also
he's really good at this.
Backs it up, right? And like,
He does.
and so you have to back that stuff up. And once you do, then all of a sudden you are able to do that. I get that, but it is also a beautiful thing when you see that happen and also then be respectful at the end. That's the only thing I can ask for, right? Because you need to make yourself, stand out. I get that. But as long as you are actually being respectful afterwards, as opposed to being Derek Lewis, maybe like
that's when it's cool beans,
right? Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, like crazy, right? But I mean, I don't know, just for me, that's the balance, right? So I think that like being a champion, and that's why I love Junior, because Junior, the boxer that I was talking about, he was fighting this guy. The guy that he fought was like talking, and Junior's like super like let's see what the gloves. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's see what the gloves say. And that's what it was, right? And then I don't know, that fits my mentality a bit more than, being a bit of a showman. And
we love you for that mentality, and we love that you took the time to come on to the NerdJock's podcast, be our first guest, be a part of this wonderful conversation and this new community, this place for both the nerd and Jock to come together under one roof.
For sure.
Tom, where can the people find you?
You can find me at T3 Athletics for all things social. And that's about it. T3athletics.com. And that's it.
Nice. Do you have anything coming up?
I've got nothing coming up but non-COVID. So I just got tested for COVID a couple of days ago. I'm negative. So if you want to come train here, I'm still negative. I don't know.
Get out to Van City so we can whoop that booty.
Big time.
Yes.
Big time. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom. We really appreciate you, man.
For sure. Peace, boys.
Later, brother.
Later.
Bye.
Oh, such a great human being.
Yes, good human being. It's one of the few Canadians that I can talk to for long periods of time without feeling like I did something wrong in the conversation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're just so nice and so personable. Like at some point I was like, I did something wrong.
What did I do wrong? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
There's no way. Well, Chris, that was our first episode of NerdJock's. How do you feel?
Feels great.
It's in the bag.
Energetic.
It's in the bag.
I'm alive with the cool beans.
Yes. And we have so many new cool guests coming. So please like, subscribe, and join us on this journey as we bring you more NerdJock content.
Yes, make sure to do that. Thank you so much for listening, for those who watched it on VOD, for those who tuned in for the podcast, and to Tom Taylor, thank you so much for being a part of this first episode. Jesse, thank you as well for having me a part of this with you. So for the NerdJock's podcast, I am Chris Marone, the one half of the NerdJock creation.
I am Jesse Grund, and we are brothers, and we want to thank you for being here.
Big surprise if you didn't know, because we look alike. All right, everybody, we will catch you next time on the next episode of NerdJock's.